Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How amazing would it be if you could practice because you want to, not because you have to? Learn how to improve your cash flow and increase your passive income now. Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more. All right, TCP listeners, I have an incredible guest today, and that is Dr. David Jackson. Dave, how you doing,
guys?
today?
What's going on, man?
This is amazing. I love these conversations that I get to have with leaders in our profession. I sometimes think, Dr. Dave, that I actually get more out of these conversations than the people who are listening. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do this.
Well, they always say the teacher learns the most, and I've been on the other side of that too. And I thoroughly enjoy the process because I agree. I mean, you're an eternal student. I think we all are. That's why we do this. That's why people that everyone knows what to do, but there's always nuggets buried inside everybody, and I hope we can unveil some of those today.
Well, and I like, let's get right into it, because one of the things that I said in the pre-chat before we even started recording today was I was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Because we've done these before. You've been interviewed by everyone who has a podcast, probably in this profession, maybe others as well. But I love what you said. You said, you know what, and this is a common reoccurring theme. Maybe you kind of looked into my soul, is, designing a business or practice that serves you and serves possibly your design, or you're designing one that serves your values. Mm-hmm. Is that really like where you see a lot of doctors are chasing maybe something that isn't aligned with who they are?
Yeah. It's interesting when you kind of get on the other side of being new. And maybe that's what this is. This little gray stuff on my chin is, I've taken a few on the chin, more than a few, and you learn from it. Some people get knocked out, some people get knocked down. Most of us get back up, and I've got a pretty good track record for all three of the above, right? So, but what I see with so many doctors, and there's no style of doctor, there's no school of thought, there's no, I graduated here, this is my technique style. The bottom line is that we all get into this thing where we want to help people. I mean, almost everybody I know that became a chiropractor or any kind of health professional really just wanted to help. And then they started seeing all these other opportunities. You can make money, you can do this, you can have freedom. But they got in because we want to help. And so we just get at it. And we go to school. We think, of course, we're learning what it's going to take to go out and be successful in life. And that doesn't work. And we might pass our boards the first time. And then we realize we get out and we're kind of pissed off, to be honest with you. I invested all this time, all this money, and I don't know anything about this. And then maybe I become an associate and I try to learn what I'm going to learn. And most people I talk to, I learn what not to do. And anyway, we just go through this process and we just kind of cobbled together all these ideas. And then we put our head down and we work, and it's hard work, man. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you work your ass off, Ed, and so do I, and so do you, Doc. And we just start working, we start moving forward, but no one ever really stops. Or I should say very few people ever really stop to say, to what end though? I mean, like what? I mean, you did, Ed, and you were stopped. You didn't stop. You were stopped, right? You had a physical thing. It's like, hey, buddy, this ain't going to happen like this, right? Mm-hmm. Most people don't know, but 2 years ago, I had one of those stops. I talked about it a little bit, running on the beach, popped a calf, ended up with an embolism, and told I was 20% chance I was going to wake up the next day. And 18 months later, I finally recovered. I mean, it took me almost 2 years to recover. So during those stops or those pauses, that's when I think, the pandemic is a great example of that. Everyone, I hope, started really reassessing what matters. And when it comes to this idea of design, here's what I've always said. And I say this as carefully as I can, but as authentically as I am. The purpose of my business is to fund my personal life. Not my purpose as a chiropractor, not my purpose as a husband, my purpose as a father, my purpose as a mentor, a friend, a coach, whatever it is. But the purpose of my business is to fund my personal life. So the very first thing that I do is I dream about what kind of life do I want? And I'm not talking about my practice, because it could be anything. And if I walked up and I'm like, dude, love your car, man. What do you do? And you said, I'm a pharmacologist. I'm a pharmacist. I'd be like, oh, I'm probably not going to go to pharmacy school, right?
Yeah.
But if I knew who you were, like what kind of a person you are, how you think, how did you think that you could get those freaking gold records on your wall behind you? I mean, I don't care what you did to get them. I want to know why you thought you could actually do that crap. That's what inspires me. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of chiropractors is clearly designing their life. So real quick, like an example that I just did, I was talking about retention. And I was talking about PVA and retention, blah, 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 blah. But here's how I presented it to some of the people that I coach and train. I presented in how to retain a relationship. And look, there's no judgment on this. People have relationships. They have good ones. They have bad ones. They lose them. They're horrible. They're wonderful. I'm fortunate, blessed, and I've worked my ass off. I've been married to the love of my life for 34 years. We have an epic love affair, and it's amazing. But I said, look, there's 5 things to it, right? You got to choose right, number 1, right? You got to make the right choices. You got to do that. You got to communicate right. You got to really learn how to do that, which is one of the hardest things in the world. By the way, these are the same 5 in retention and practice. And I'm not teaching retention today, but as an example, number 3, you got to correct right. You got to know how to correct people because they will step over the line and you don't need to tolerate things. You got to compensate people right. You got to give them what makes them feel valued. You got to celebrate right. And so that's part of a life design process that I designed personally, I don't know, 30 years ago with my wife and I, and also in business. And I think that, Ed, most people just don't spend the time to say, what do I want my personal life to be? What I want, I have date nights every single week, and they're routine. They're not routine. They're religious. I mean, we do not miss them. We have a monthly 2-day getaway. We love our home. You've been to my house, Ed. It's a nice place, but we go somewhere just to get out, to break things up at least once a month. Every quarter we go do my wife and I, Nicole, go away for an adventure, but it's a business write-off adventure, right? No, it's an adventure for 3 days. But, we're talking about our plan, our life plan, our personal plan. And then every year we take a minimum of 3 weeks and we go out and we travel or we adventure, whatever. That's just part of a plan. And most of us just have never really sat down because, Ed, it's hard to sit down and go, I don't know, I just want to be happy. I just want to have some bucks. when we start, I just want to pay my bills. I just want to keep the lights on. I just want to, just doesn't belong in this design, right? Yeah. This is not it. The first step is you got to dream. And you remember what that was like when you were a kid, right? When no one told you couldn't, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love this conversation too, because it's interesting how the universe kind of just keeps presenting the same lessons over time if you don't learn them. But when I was in practice and I was getting managed and, the practice was growing and we were monitoring, we measure, because if you don't measure, you can't grow. And, we would hit these landmarks and I would be like, well, what's the next thing? And they go, well, so if we hit 600 a week, they would go, oh, it's 700. And I'd be like, all right, fine. So then we hit 700. It was like 800. And it's the same in what I'm doing now with online business. I was looking at my, numbers and I'm like, oh my God, I've had 5,500 sales in the last 3 years. I'm like, so how many is enough? And then, you start to really reevaluate what you're doing. And is that really one of the biggest pieces that you help doctors with too, is really identifying, why are they doing what they're doing? And they're not just working towards something that's this intangible goal. How would Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Tim Ferriss create a chiropractic practice? The answer is The Payday Practice, a new book by Dr. Jeff Langmaid and Dr. Jason Deitch. The Payday Practice is the perfect solution for any chiropractic practice looking to generate monthly recurring revenue. This book provides a step-by-step process that is easy to follow and guaranteed to get results. Get your free copy today at thepaydaypractice.com. Don't wait, this offer won't last forever. The Payday Practice, recurring practice revenue the easy way. Head over to thepaydaypractice.com for your free copy now.
Yeah, I mean, that we can go all the way. I mean, I've got these 7 steps I was going to discuss, and I don't really care what I discuss. I just want to be impactful, and that's a rabbit hole that needs to be explored.
Yeah,
because I think most of us, in fact, here's the interesting thing: anyone watching or listening to TCP right now, anyone that's done in the past, is unique already. Because everyone has access to it. Anyone can listen to it. It's free. You can download it. Everyone's heard of it, but only certain people do it. And those are usually goal-driven people. The challenge is, and I'm one of them, the challenge is I've been fulfilled but freaking empty for so long because I'm that guy like you that I set the goal, 5,300 clients, right? Or 5,370, whatever your number was. I saw it this morning. And you see it, and you're like, yes, all right, 6,000, right? And you might not even pop the cork. Like there might not even be a momentary celebration. And I know this sounds so so obvious, but man, we just go from goal to goal to goal to goal to goal. And there's just a profound emptiness that develops as we go on. And we actually find ourselves chasing other people's goals. I had the same thing. I had 1,000 a week in my garage for years because that's what I was told a good chiropractor was doing. I hit about 825 and I was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to see 825 people. And I decided I was going to determine what I really wanted, not what other people thought of me. I read a great email yesterday or this morning, actually, from Andy Frisella. And he was talking about Wilt Chamberlain, who was this amazing freaking athlete, right? The highest scorer in the NBA, but he couldn't hit a free throw for his life, right? He just sucked at free throws. So someone said, granny him, I don't know what they call it, throw it underhand. And he'd be like 85% underhand. But it was so embarrassing to him that the next season, he's like, no, went back to, I can't make a free throw because he was more concerned about what people thought about him than actually winning. The problem is we take our goals, we do that. And what we forget is really, this is the way I look at it. My goals exist to push me to become a different person. That's the reward. Who you become pursuing, that's the reward. The pursuit is the reward. And I know life is a journey. It's not a destination. That's cute. I'm talking about a profound concept, a premise, a core belief that the reason we set goals is because when we pursue them, we have to become someone bigger, someone better, someone more competent. We've got to think bigger, think better. And that is inspiring to me. So now I can set the same goals, but with a completely different reason. I don't need to celebrate them as much because I'm celebrating them every day because it pushes me. You get that feeling. You wake up and you're a little bit nervous about the day. Like you anticipate things. There's that anxiety, and it's a positive, stressful anxiety, right? And that's part of that, that first stage, or really the first step of this is you gotta dream when there were no rules and no boundaries, and forget about what people tell you is possible. Hey, if you're a single mom and you love chiropractic, you went to school, but you got married, or you didn't, whatever, you have a kid, and you really just want to be a mom, but you don't want to lose chiropractic. I get this all the time. People come to me and I'm like, well, what do I just want to see 250 a week, but I can't with, 5 days a week. And I'm like, well, what day do you want to see that on? And they go, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, whoa, just a minute. Just dream. If you want to see 250 on a Monday and then go home Tuesday through Sunday, what if you could do that? No rules, just dream it first. Because that's the first thing we got to do is dream about our life. Because remember, the business part exists to fund that. But if you haven't got a blueprint, if you don't have a design, I don't know about you, Ed, your house looks pretty cool, man. And someone, either you or someone else, spent a tremendous amount of intellect, emotion, study, comparison in building up a set of plans. And all they had to do, and I know this sounds tongue in cheek, but all they had to do once that design was done was write a check. And someone else do it. So doing it's not hard. It's designing it that's hard, so that you actually live in the place that you truly want to be. And most of us haven't dreamed we dream more about going to Disney World than we do about our whole life and what it looks like and what our relationships look like and our health and our intellectual life and our emotional life and our character. I mean, one of the biggest things that I dream about all the time is character. I look at movies, I look at people that I know, I look at real people, and I'm like, what traits do they have that they're knocking out of the park that I'm okay at or that I suck at? And how do I find those traits? I don't want to be them, but I want to become that character, and I want to add that in my life. You know, dude, I wouldn't stand you up if we, you had an appointment for today. I'm not going to stand you up. But how many times do we stand ourselves up? Oh, I'm going to go to the gym. Yeah, blow that off. I'm going to do this. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to get that podcast going. Yeah, I've been talking about that for a long time, right? We break our own character, but we won't break it with others. I ask myself, what's that all about? Like, you got to dig in to the dream in order to start realizing the dream. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, so when you had that life-changing, we'll just kind of back up to the life-changing, health crisis that you had, like, did it change your perspective for like, as to like how you were operating in your life even at that moment? Or like, did you have to reflect on things?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I had to reflect on things, it's all I had was reflection. I'm sitting in the emergency cardiac ward being told I'm not going to wake up, and it's right in the middle of COVID and I can't be visited by my wife. I just went for a MRI on my calf that I popped and ended up, being told I was going to die kind of thing. So yeah, you reflect a lot, but I also don't want to get into this trivial, like, oh, when you have a life, because you know what happens? This is crazy. People go, well, I've never had that experience. I never had that patient that was a miracle. So I'm like, don't ask the universe for that stuff, please. Just go through other people's life experiences and say, okay. But yeah, reflection is what matters, I mean, look, the hardest thing I had to do was FaceTime my wife and then FaceTime each one of my girls and tell them that I was going to be okay, knowing that I might not be okay. Yeah. And in those moments, if you had to do that with your sons, Ed, I mean, it's just you're their world. And that reflection in and of itself is all that matters. I'm already getting a little emotional over it because it's nothing else matters. My business didn't matter. My connections didn't matter. My legacy, who gives a shit, excuse my French, but who gives a damn about any of that stuff? When the rubber hits the road, there's only a very few things that actually matter. And the question is, are those the pillars of the life that you're building through this practice that you're working your ass off on, or the side hustle that you're doing? I mean, what's it all for? And if you don't dream it, then you're never going to have it. But the second step you got to do, and they're all these, and this is where so many people suffer, Ed, is they don't feel like they deserve it. Like, they might look and go, yeah, that'd be really cool, but they say it with laughter because they were told they wouldn't be anybody. They were told they couldn't have it. They were told that this is good enough. They were told, and look, I know we all know this, but Larry Markson used to say, mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers, and the whole world has told you what you should do and should not do. We went to visit my mom yesterday with my two daughters. She's 80, almost 82. She lives up in LA. It's a 2-hour drive. And I drive by my old high school, right? And every time it's a joke, I go, oh, there's my old high school. And my kids laugh. And I said, hey, I matriculated there 4 years, graduated with a 2.8 GPA. And my oldest daughter goes, are you serious? Because she was a 4.0 student and she thinks I'm smart. And I'm like, yeah, do you not respect me anymore? I said, I worked hard for that 2.8 GPA, man. I mean, it's like, and she goes, well, looks like it didn't matter because you've done pretty well with yourself. And I didn't deserve success until I determined that, you know what? Screw them. Screw all those people. I'm going to prove them wrong. I mean, I deserve to have whatever I'm willing to work for. That's what I deserve. And, you can have a dream, but if you think you deserve playing small, then you've got other things, let's call them subluxations, other interferences to the innate expression of your potential. And it's a freaking contradiction to say you're going to bend over a table or do a podcast or run an online program that helps other people express their potential when you're limiting your own potential because of what other people have said in other circumstances. We all have been there. We've all done that. We all own the t-shirts, but we get to choose our shirts, man. We're adults. And it's like, yeah, you got to figure out how you deserve it before the third step, before you can actually discover it. And that's, I think one of the key steps is that discovery part. And what I mean by that quickly is, who has what I want? And not how did they get it, as I said earlier, but who are they? What makes them do that? Ed, I know you posted, or maybe we were just chatting about it recently about, masterminds and how many you've been in. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, the very first mastermind I ever joined was $50,000. And here's what I got for that. For you guys here's what I got. 3 2-day weekends in 1 year. That was it. No websites, no content, no personal phone calls. Was it valuable? Probably one of the most valuable things I ever did, because I got to see who people were. I got to study what made people, why, who the hell do you think you are to think that big, right? We think we're thinking in a big way. That discovery is really focused on, but the problem is, well, how'd you do that, Ed? How'd you do that, Ed? How'd you do? And we do. I mean, come on, it's who Ed has become and is becoming. It's who I am and who I'm becoming. It's who you are, and the opportunity of who you really want to become that really determines the outcome of your design, the house that you end up living in, the life that you go, man, this is freaking epic. This is awesome. I love it. I'm so fulfilled.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but I love Reels, like Instagram Reels lately, and TikToks. And one of the ones I love the most, or a quote, I think it was a Joe Rogan. He got it from someone else, but it was a quote. And it was like that most men live a life of quiet desperation. And it resonated with me because I thought, it's like most chiropractors live a life of quiet desperation. Yeah. But why do you think most docs hold themselves back from their highest potential? Like, what do you think holds them back?
Well, before I go there, and they fake it really well. We are such a authentic group of people, but man, everyone's got a smile and a high five at a seminar, and then they go back to their quiet desperation. And it's not, hey, I so have been there. It's not a judgment. It's like I get it as a man and as a chiropractor. It's a reality. And I think that ties into I'm not sure I deserve what's possible. And, that could be a deep psychological wound, or it could be a simple flip of a switch to say, do you believe in value exchange? I had this conversation this weekend with a local chiropractor, wonderful, wonderful guy, but he just, his ideas, I'm not saying mine are right, his are wrong, but were so off base and they were hurting him so badly, but he believed in them 100%. So he was executing his plan perfectly, which was to adjust every joint in the body and spend as much time as possible, because I'm being paid for my time and people want to value it. So I spend an hour with every person. I'm a good chiropractor. And yet he lives with, he is 40, he lives with his father. He doesn't have any, he told me, I don't have 2 nickels to rub together, but he had a big smile on his face. That's that quiet desperation. Yeah. And I'd like to say, even if he watches this podcast, I called him out on his crap. I said, you're not fooling me, bro. I mean, everyone else is like, oh, good job. Oh, you got this. And I'm like, you don't got this, dude. I just laid it out. I'm like, you're 42 years old. You just told me you put on 22 pounds during COVID. You live with your freaking dad. And and I just not to be mean, but I'm like, dude, what do you really want? And then he started breaking, right? And that quiet desperation, I think it needs accountability. It needs someone to go, bull crap. If you're not, it's hard to call yourself on your own stuff, but that's what real friends do, right? They tell you got something in your teeth. The other people, your patients will just let it sit there all day long. I mean, I remember going to the mirror once in the bathroom. I don't think I had gone to the bathroom all shift. I get done with a shift of like 160 people. I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, big piece of salad, right? Not a single patient said a word, right? A friend would go, hey, bro, you got a little something. Get rid of that. That's kind of how you dispel quiet desperation, I think. It's like, but when you become like the people you hang around. We've all heard that. So when you hang around people that are the same, no one wants to say anything. Yeah. You get into a group where people go, why are you so underperforming? And you're like, why are you so mean? What do you mean? You're hurt, right? Yeah. But the truth hurts sometimes. Yeah. And I wrote the book called The Truth Will Do. And part of that concept is that the truth is a funny thing, right? The truth shall set you free. The truth hurts. Well, which one is it? Kind of depends on where you stand. If you stand in alignment, it sets you free. If you stand in contradiction, it's going to hurt. Supposed to hurt, by the way. Don't mask the symptoms. Figure out the cause, correct the cause, and move on. And I think that Ed, that's also the part of, if we got to dream it and we got to figure out how we deserve it, and we've got to discover it by saying, okay, who has this? Who are they? What kind of person are they? What kind of person do I need to become? Then you got to really be determined, man. It's not easy. And I think a lot of people, I know you have to get this. People go, oh, I can make money in my underwear. No, I mean, you can if you choose to just wear underwear, but that's probably a different website, right? But you got to work, man, but you got to work smart, not just hard. You've got to work in alignment and not through contradictions. And I think that's where a lot of chiropractors really start losing it, is they say they want it. They don't. They're okay with mediocrity. I mean, it's not easy, man. Having a great relationship is nothing. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But I'm into wine, and I've been to some of the best vineyards in the world. And I speak to the winemakers, and putting together a nice wine, a box of wine, is pretty easy. Putting together a really nice wine is very complex, and it's not easy. And it's also, and I say this tongue in cheek, but it's not easy to let it sit in your wine cellar for 20 years, waiting for the perfect moment to open it, because it's now developed. But you've got to be determined to hit your goals. And I think that, the easiest thing you can do is just lower your expectations of life. Just kind of, everyone else is mediocre. I can be there too. And I can just have this good practice, and I just want to be comfortable. Well, who defines comfortable? And I'm not talking about stuff, by the way. I'm talking about experiences and philanthropy and all those kind of things that come with success when you're able to do that. But you gotta design it, man. You gotta get it all down and literally into a blueprint if you ever want to build it.
Yeah. Anything worthwhile takes time, takes energy, is difficult in the beginning. Anything that's worthwhile. I mean, this podcast, I'm well over 400 episodes. It's the first 10 were the hardest.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and I use this analogy for online stuff too, because so many docs give up in online, but they give up in practice too. And they give up on their dreams, like you said, and on their values. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you're working with a coach, and a coach isn't going to lift the weight for you, right? They're going to put the weight in your hands, and you're going to be like, oh my God, this weight is so fucking heavy. At first,
can't do it.
Yeah. But I mean, but the next week it's lighter, and the next week it's lighter. And it's really like the resistance or the friction and the difficulty. It gets easier with time and with practice, and literally with practice, right?
Yeah.
But one thing I know is it's real, like you said, it's really, really difficult to do it alone, and to do it in a group of people who are, possibly living a life of or business of mediocrity.
And I think we've got, when you really believe, and this is where people don't like to talk about this, and they just go, yeah, I've heard this. When you really believe your product's going to help someone, mm-hmm. when you really believe your service solves a problem, we all know, I hope we understand this, that the wealthiest people solve the biggest problems. Find a bigger problem. And so if Mary has a headache and you fix her problem, yeah, you're right on par with a couple of Advil. That's awesome. Yeah. And she's going to pay you on par with that. But if Mary's headaches have caused her to doubt her ability as a new mother, and she's freaked out and she hates herself because she feels like a failure and her mom abandoned her, and now she feels like she's abandoned her child because she doesn't have the tools and the resources, because she's got these migraine headaches. Mary didn't come to you because of her headache. She came to you because she feels like a bad mom. That's I don't know how much bigger a problem can be. You solve that. Mary's going to pay you whatever you ask. Mary's going to stick with you. Mary's going to know, like, and trust you, and you'll retain Mary and her children and everyone else for a long, long time. But we chiropractors and online entrepreneurs, do we really believe in our own crap? Or is it just like, oh, yeah, because, it's crazy. And I'd love to, sit down again with you and talk about that kind of stuff, because a lot of people just go, well, I've been trying to figure out an idea of something to sell. That's not really how you do it. You're passionate about something, you believe in something, and you believe the world needs this. And so then you're like, okay, I remember when I finally figured it out, it didn't come easy. I'm not going to go into my story, but I sucked for a long time. But when I finally figured it out, I was like, okay, couple of problems now. I have no idea how to communicate this. Like, I don't know how to add value to people. I don't know how to take care of people. I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to be profitable. I don't, so what are you going to do? You either, go lift all the weights, or surround yourself with people that are like, yeah, I know how, and I can save you some ignorance tax. Like, right? I mean, what a good guy does is just put a flashlight on the road and go, see that? You don't want to go there, man. I like to race cars. I know, Ed, we've talked about cars a lot, and I like to track cars. And when I'll go out on a new track and I've got a professional, I've done this like, I don't know, half a dozen times with a world champion sitting next to me. And they're telling me, okay, this next corner, we do a slow track walk because you got to know where the curves are. Then they're like, okay, you're going to slam into that berm. Like, you're going to hit that curb as hard. And you're like, that, like, just run. And then you're going to crank. And you're like, no, that's good. But they know. And they look, like you said, they measure. So you got all these metrics, and they're like, okay, you're losing 0.2 seconds into that curve because you're braking 10 feet too early. If you and they just solve your problem so you don't have to. You still have to drive. You still have to lift the weights. You still got to do the work. But someone that's been down the road before you can really give you that insight and tell you where the pitfalls are. And, by the way, it doesn't mean they're going to make sure you never get hurt, because you kind of have to. You got to tear your own muscle apart for it to grow. So they're going to push you way beyond comfort, because, Doc, we all know that you can't grow in your own comfort zone. So why are we pretending ourselves? If you're in your own comfort zone and no growth happens inside your comfort zone, it happens outside your comfort zone, what's the best way to become uncomfortable? Have your spouse tell you that you need to do this. Have your coach tell you that, hey, this is what you said. I'm going to hold you accountable to it. If it's a boot in your ass, or a phone call, or a hug, or a high five, or counseling, whatever it takes, but you got to do something, because the people deserve it, and so do you.
So, I'll just drop this link right now, because I want to make sure that docs get this before they start jetting out here. Is epicimpactevents.com/TCP. Yep. So, or hyphen, actually. Is that hyphen? No, it's / Excuse me. I'm going to say it again. epicimpactevents.com/TCP. So, docs, you can actually head to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We'll have a web page actually dedicated to our discussion today with Dr. David, but we will also have the links and resources in the show notes. So if you're listening on your mobile, go ahead and actually just open up the show notes, and you'll find the links right there. So this is a special training that you're going to be putting together for everyone who's listening here. And I gotta thank you, man. I mean, it's like always so incredible to have you on the podcast and the insight that you bring. And one of the things I love to do, it doesn't matter. I was saying, but everyone has a different answer, even if they've been on this podcast like multiple different times, which is rare. But I'm going to put you in the TCP time machine. Are you ready for this?
Why not? Here we go.
You were born for it.
Should I hold on?
Okay. So we're putting you in the TCP time machine. We're going to send you back to a younger version of yourself. This is right after, let's see, when is this? This is like right after you had the MRI, but now that your body is healed and you're going to be okay. So like, this is going back maybe 6 months, possibly, maybe a year.
18.
Yeah. So not long ago. So we're going to send you back to that younger version of yourself. And when you meet that younger version of you, you have all this life experience that you have today. What would you say to that younger version?
That's a good one, man. Because that's that's a fearful spot,
Yeah.
Never even got the MRI, by the way. Stepped out of my Jeep and I was like crutched. I did 2 crutches and went, oh my God. And it all made sense. And I'm like, ER. Dude, I double parked in front of the ER, just left my keys in the Jeep and just went through the COVID line and checked myself in. They're like, you can't. I'm like, I'm just did it. So What would I say to myself now? Faith over fear. Because fear is real. It doesn't mean no fear. Like, I used to have that sticker on my mountain bike, gooseneck, no fear. Remember when that brand was really big? There was a brand called No Fear when I surfed, back in the day. It was no fear. Bullcrap. There's always fear. Fear is there. Fear is my innate saying, if you want to grow, knock on that door. I mean, it's scary. You don't know what's behind there, and I'm not even going to tell you. But if you really want to grow, find the things that you're most afraid of: public speaking, launching,
Right.
not tolerating, telling someone what you really mean to say, and have faith. And whatever that faith looks like, whether it's faith in a higher purpose, power, being, or faith in yourself. And I asked the doctor asked me in the emergency room after about 6 hours of workup, and they said, Doc, or yeah, he didn't call me Doc. He said, I called him Doc. He said, how do you want me to give it to you? I said, straight. And I'm only going to say this because you did. You opened the Pandora's box. He said, you're fucked. And I was like, can you throw a curveball at me? Can you maybe not quite that straight, a little humorous. And he said, you got a 20% chance of waking up in the morning tomorrow. I said, I immediately went into fear. I went into fear mode. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready. I did my wife thinks I'm getting an MRI right now.
Oh yeah.
And I went there, but if I went back now, I would have done everything in my power to say, all right, we got a situation. You will get through this. Like I would just, and I don't mean like positive thinking. I mean,
right.
An actual faith in a knowledge, a knowing that we got this, that I've got support, that people are going to come to my aid, that people are going to help, that the power that made the body heals the body happens no other way. That's not a cute little saying that I put on a t-shirt, that's how it works. And I'm supposed to not have a left leg right now because my entire femoral vein, clotted from this freaking accident that I had. And it never unclotted, by the way. It's just gone.
Wow.
And they're like, well, hopefully the doctor tells me this is on a checkup. Hopefully it'll re-anastomose. Well, I know it does. And I focused all the pain that I had, Ed. I remember thinking it hurt like hell. And I just remember telling me, man, growing new vessels is painful. Growing new pathways is painful. Bring it on. Bring it on. And I'd say to myself, bring it on. I did, but it took me a while to get there. And so whatever, Doc, your situation is, whatever pain you're going through, know you're not alone, have faith, bring it on, grow.
Yeah. I mean, who has not experienced, I'm sure so many doctors can empathize because who has not experienced some level of pain and fear over the last few years? And we have to be so careful, even on these episodes, we can't even talk about certain things, but like the fear, right? And yeah, it's crazy. But so many docs, and especially even the ones that I've been talking to lately, they've been through maybe not as critical, but definitely through a lot of fear. Yeah. And it's people like yourself who are helping them. So thank you for that. And Doc, I know you got the green books there behind you, and you love resources. You love wine. What is a good resource, or more of a recent resource, something that you would say everyone should read, everyone should go out and download? It could be an app, could be anything at all that's a resource.
Yeah. I'll give you two things. Number one, if you do go to epicimpactevents.com/TCP, and I told you, and I said, I don't even know where it's going to lead. And I'll figure it out halfway. I know exactly where it's going to lead. We're having an online virtual. It's probably going to be 4 to 5 hours. It'll probably cost about no more than $97. But I've done this for 6 years, an online annual training masterclass. It is the best in the profession. We use proprietary tools. It will help you plan your year in your business in the 4 quadrants that matter. Perfect. It is so freaking powerful. It's for my members, but I'll invite you in. The second thing is, if you haven't read Ed Mylett's book, The Power of One More, get the book. Good book.
So $97 is what you're going to do the 4 to 5 hour training?
I guess I am now. I was making that up, but yeah.
I would charge for it.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, my members pay thousands of dollars for it. So it's, but they're cool sharing because it is a very, very powerful, have some of the best chiropractors in the world on. And it's really, we work together for about 4 to 5 hours and build a full quarterly plan. Because I truly believe that if you don't build it, you can't achieve it. You can't live in it, and you can't be happy about it. So we're going to build your 2023 marketing calendar and your action calendar, your team calendar, and your personal calendar, so that you make sure that you come out happier than you were when you went in.
I love it. And you know what I love most about this is not only is it helping people break barriers and set goals and intentions for 2023, But it sounds like you're doing the work actually on the 4-hour training. I don't know about you, but I suck at homework, man. I always have. So I just never did my homework.
2.8 GPA, man. You're talking to. Yes, we're actually going to get it done. I mean,
do it in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be sent home with homework, right? So I love that about it. It's worth the 97 for sure. And you talked about the, investing in yourself, investing in your coaches, your mentors. I've taken a break for like at least a good year and a half. And just in the last month, I've invested very, very significantly in my future. And it feels good because like docs who are going to be connecting with you and doing this work, I guarantee they're going to feel like they've come home, like it's home for them. So awesome. Yeah, thank you. So listeners, you can head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. Again, we'll have all the resources. I'm going to mail this out a couple times to our list. So if you're on our email list, you're going to get this. We'll put it out on social media, of course, as well. But thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it, Dr. Jackson.
You know what? It's an absolute pleasure. Impact is one of my highest values. And I just hope that I can continue to create impact for everybody.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.